Hi, and welcome back to Rock Talk with Dr. Cropper. On today's episode, we are going to discuss the Grateful Dead's uh, Pacific Northwest 1973 and 74 box set, which they released a few years ago, but I only recently acquired. And I will, it'll be sort of like an unboxing style thing, even though I opted for the digital version. I wanted to get the physical box set, but the shipping cost I just couldn't justify. But it did look really cool, and the packaging looked really neat. I will talk about the artwork though, because I think it's some of the coolest artwork I've seen. Better even than the Europe 72 album covers that I discussed in the episode about that tour. So the shows in this box set are June 22nd, 1973 in Vancouver, June 24th, 73 in Portland, and June 26th, 73 in Seattle, May 17th, 74 in Vancouver, May 19th, 74 in Portland, and May 21st, 74 in Seattle. I'm fairly new to 73 and 74 for Grateful Dead, so it was really neat for me to go through this box set and kind of introduce myself to new sections of their catalog. I had listened to a couple 73 shows before. I'd listened to November 17th at Pauley Pavilion on the UCLA campus, which is a really good show, and I'd listened to a couple of the Dark Stars from the fall tour as well. I'm trying to think if I'd listened to the Buffalo March 31st show because that's my birthday. And then this year, before I listened to this box, I listened to the two shows at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., which were on June 9th and 10th of 73. And then 74, I had only listened to a couple songs here and there. I had never listened to a full show. I also ordered the Dave's Picks Volume 34, which is the June 23rd 74 show at the High Life Fountain in Miami, which I listened to right after this box set and really loved that one as well. So anyhow, this box set is what we are going to focus on today. I think I'll give you my ranking of the artwork rather first. I think the best artwork is the Portland 74 show. It features a two-tone background with green on the bottom, which is supposed to be grass with a little blue river going through it, and then you have various paw prints along the ground. It looks like the prints of a wolf going to the left, and then the prints of a bear going to the right, and you can see the bear done in red on the grass, and then you have some skeletons of fish also along there, and then dividing the green from the yellow, which is the sky, you have black silhouettes of trees, and you can see the part of the tree that would be above ground against the yellow background, and then the root systems of the trees coming down into the green background, which is really neat. And then also a silhouette in the sky, which it's hard to tell if it's supposed to be an animal or a person, but I'm thinking maybe a person. But anyhow, this one is really neat, and they're done by a Canadian artist who I forget the name of, but they're all in that kind of indigenous style of art and imagery, which you find a lot of in that part of the continent, the Washington, British Columbia, Oregon, Alaska, uh, all that really neat Pacific Northwest style of art. I think the second coolest one is the Seattle 73 cover, which features a blue mountain range with white and silvery slopes, presumably the Cascades. And in the foreground, you have two wolves howling and a grizzly and a black bear, and also a beaver. So that's all pretty neat. And then the silhouette of a ram in the sky in the background, which is light blue, by the way. So that one is really neat as well. It was a tough call between those two. I think they're by far the coolest. And then third, I would put the Seattle 74 cover, which is all different shades of blue, getting lighter as you work your way up, with two whales, black outlines with red patterns inside of them, sort of curling, looking like they're butting heads. So that one is pretty cool as well. Fourth for the cover art, I would put the Vancouver 73 cover. It has a sort of beigeish strip along the top with the text for the date of the show and everything in it. And then beneath that, a large light blue background, which is supposed to be the water, and then all manner of marine life under the water. We got some sort of looks like a humpback whale, but it also looks like it has eyes at the back, which is kind of funky. And then there's a bunch of different sizes of fish, lobster, crabs, a shell, a stingray, a squid. Yeah, all sorts of neat stuff. So that one's pretty cool too. And then fifth for the cover art, I would have the Vancouver 74 cover. This one and the Portland 73 one, which I would put last, are pretty similar, and I think a notch below the others in my personal opinion. Visual art obviously is super subjective. The Vancouver 74 one has a red strip at the top, and then an orange strip, and then a green and a yellow, and then some blue water. And it has looks like a bird eating a little skull, and then what I think is supposed to be an eagle's head with a cool looking eye in it, and then something that I have no idea what it is, but it looks cool. And then the Portland 73 one is kind of the inverse. It's red on the bottom, and then orange, green, yellow, and blue sky, and then several different sorts of birds filling the sky. So that's the cover art. All of them are definitely worth checking out and are nice to look at as you're listening. I sent them to my dad, and he said that he would like to frame them if we could track down the prints from the artist and have them big enough to put in a frame. And you might find yourself wishing you could do the same if you listen, because they look pretty neat. Okay, so as far as the shows themselves, the 73 has a very unique sort of vibe to the playing. I've seen it described as mellow but intense, and I think that's pretty accurate. It's all of the songs have this sort of relaxed inertia to them, while still having some pretty intense and impressive playing. Uh, Very jazzy sound, uh, the Dead had in '73, and it lends itself well to most of the songs they were playing at the time. Later that summer in August, they would record their Wake of the Flood album, which was their first studio album in 3 years, and it came out in October of '73, but they had already brought a lot of the songs that would end up on it into the set list by this point in the earlier part of the summer of '73, like Mississippi Half Step, Uptown Toodaloo, Row Jimmy, Stella Blue, Here Comes Sunshine, Eyes of the World, and Weather Report Suite. The only one on there that doesn't feature on any of these shows is Let Me Sing Your Blues Away, which is one that Keith sings lead on, interestingly enough. Anyhow, so the set list had some new originals in it compared to '72, which I've spent a lot more time listening to. So it's neat to hear some changes to the set list, and obviously they were without Pigpen on this tour, as he had passed away in March of '73. So I can only imagine that they would have undertaken this tour with some heavy hearts. Pigpen's departure from the lineup, which had actually taken place in the summer of '72, meant the axing of a lot of the blues and R&B covers that had been setlist staples while Pigpen was in the band, like Turn On Your Love Light and Good Lovin' and Hurts Me Too and Hard to Handle, which they didn't play in '72, but had played a lot before that. And so a lot of the ones like that they had played often while he was still there aren't in the set list anymore by the time we get to '73, which was part of the reason why I held off, I think, getting into '73, because I really liked those ones. So I liked how '72 had a mix of those bluesy early influences and still some hints of the Primal Dead sound when they would play Caution in Europe, for instance, while also mixing in more of the jazzy avant-garde stuff they were starting to find themselves interested in. And I also wasn't really familiar with the Wake of the Flood songs as much at that point. So when I would look at the set list, I thought, like, there's not enough stuff on there that I like, and I just disregarded '73 for a while, which was my loss, as I have now found out. They also were playing some of the longest shows of their career in '73. There are several that crossed the 4-hour mark, which is pretty crazy compared to the average band out there touring. But if there's one thing that most people would be able to agree on about their career, it's that they were anything but the average band. And then skipping ahead to the '74 shows in the box set, '74 was the last year before their so-called hiatus, which I've always found kind of funny that they called it a hiatus, because they played their last show before the break October 20th, '74 in San Francisco, and then resumed touring in '76, in the first half of '76. So, less than it's about a year and a half break at most. But during the gap, they still played 4 one-off shows in and around San Francisco in '75. So it shows you what a hardworking band they were as far as frequency of touring, even 10 years into their career, that they considered a year with only having a couple isolated shows to be a hiatus. I mean, if you look at Zeppelin or the Stones by that point in their career, touring every 2 years was standard practice. So kudos to the Dead for really pounding the pavement for their entire career on the road. And 74 was also the last year of the one drummer lineup, because Mickey Hart would rejoin them at the end of the Winterland run in October, just before the hiatus, and stayed with them for the rest of their career after that. So this marks the end of the 71 to 74 period, where Bill was the only drummer, which is my favorite period for the band. I think having the one drummer enabled them to be much more strident and able to turn on a dime as far as changing directions during jams and everything. And I also think they had a lot more tempo variance when it was just Kreutzmann drumming, which might not bother some people, but is something I always notice as a drummer. I think 74 then is represents somewhat of a musical peak for them, as far as within song and set list improvisation. Just the variety, the technical proficiency, individually and collectively, had been trending upwards from 72 at least, and continued to progress in 73, even with the more mellow approach. And then by 74, just shot up to another level. And I don't think they ever totally got back to that after the hiatus. I mean, sure, there were other peaks, like 77 was a great year, but I don't think it was ever quite the same as it was during this early 70s sweet spot. And 74 was the culmination of that. Some of the transitions, which were a signature aspect of their live experience for their whole career, as far as stitching songs together seamlessly that you might not think would go together that well. That was at its peak in 74, I would say. I mean, the Miami show that I mentioned, they play a 17-minute instrumental, Dark Star, and then wind their way from there into a Spanish jam, and then, like a shot out of a cannon, go from that into perhaps the best US blues they ever played. And the transition is really thrilling, and that sort of stuff was happening every night during this period. The 74 shows also have a great sound to them, partially because Garcia had switched from his Fender Stratocaster, which also sounded really good, to a guitar that he would use up until 79, I believe, which was nicknamed the Wolf, and had just really, really cool and unique to him tone that worked really well for the Dead's material. John Mayer actually played this guitar for Dead and Company's show at Citi Field last June. It's on display at the Met in New York, and they loaned it out to him for the night, so that was neat to see it used again, playing Dead stuff. When I say neat to see, I watched the stream of it. I wasn't actually there. I wish. Anyway, so that contributes to the the really nice timbre of this tour, when he would be using it on future shows later in the 70s. It was with the two drummers and everything, and Keith was playing a different keyboard, not the Fender Rhodes, which he used a lot in 73 and 74, so it wasn't quite the same, but this was a real sweet spot for their sound. And then perhaps more importantly, this was the tour when they used their famous wall of sound system. The wall of sound was a massive concert sound system that was designed specifically for the Dead by their longtime sound man, Owsley Stanley, who is nicknamed Bear. And he had a period where he wasn't their sound guy from 70 to 72 because he was incarcerated for LSD production. He was one of the foremost producers of it in the world for a period there in the late 60s. I read something a few weeks ago that they estimated he produced from 65 to 67 somewhere in the, I want to say it was over like the equivalent of 100 million hits of acid, which is nuts. And because he in addition to his knowledge as a sound engineer, he was also a very bright chemist, which helped him with the LSD production and helped the Dead to have a good supply of it, which in turn helped them write a lot of their signature songs and develop their signature sort of acid rock sound. So they and we all as Deadheads owe a great debt to the Bear. Anyhow, so he designed the wall of sound system specifically for them, and you can Google pictures of it. It looks just nuts how many speakers they had, and it sounded absolutely stunning. The only problem was it was very expensive to shuttle around the country and time consuming to set up and tear down, so they ended up abandoning it after the hiatus, which is unfortunate because it sounded really, really good. So without further ado, I will get into the rankings of the shows in this box set. At number 6, I have the Vancouver 74 show. Let me just say, it isn't by no means a bad show. It's a really good show. It's just they're all good. One of them has to be last. It's the shortest at 2 hours 57 minutes, which I guess is part of why I have it last. As far as the set list, it is Promised Land, Deal, The Race Is On, which is a George Jones cover that I really like, that they did quite frequently in 73 and 74. Ramble on Rose, Jackstraw, Dire Wolf, Beat It On Down the Line, Loose Lucy, Big River, It Must Have Been the Roses, Mexicali Blues, Row Jimmy, Playing in the Band, U.S. Blues, Me and My Uncle, Ship of Fools, Money Money, which is a song from the Mars Hotel, their 1974 album that they only played 3 times, and it's the 374 shows in this box set. So that's another neat thing to recommend this box set by. China Cat Sunflower, I Know You Rider, Greatest Story Ever Told, Sugary, Truckin', Nobody's Fault But Mine, Eyes of the World, China Doll, Sugar Magnolia. Speaking of From the Mars Hotel, it's another of my favorite studio albums of theirs, like Wake of the Flood, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. And it was recorded in March and April of 74 and released at the end of June. So it came out just after this tour, but they had already recorded it, and several of the songs from it, U.S. Blues, China Doll, Loose Lucy, Scarlet Begonias, which is one of my favorite Dead songs, and a really welcome addition to the set list in 74, which is another reason why I now love 74. Money Money and Ship of Fools. All of those are make the 74 set lists really good, in my opinion. So this Vancouver show, the highlights out of what I said, always nice to get Dire Wolf. It has a nice playing in the band, a very good Ship of Fools, a good China Rider, and perhaps the biggest highlight, though oddly enough, from this show is Big River, which is a song that I'm kind of ambivalent about at best in most other years, especially the post-hiatus ones. I think they can drag a bit. I've heard a few 72 versions that aren't bad, but I really like the 74 versions now. And this Vancouver one in particular, there's a saying in the Dead community, steal your face, which I've always interpreted to mean, when something that you're listening to is so good that you just sort of lose control of your face and a smile creeps onto it, or a bewildered look, or stunned, or zoned out, or whatever the case may be, typically brought on by some intense solo from Jerry, but could be anything. Anyhow, Jerry's second solo on Big River at this Vancouver 74 show, forget about Steal Your Face. I mean, it damn near incinerated it, just scorched it right off. I could not believe how hot it was. So that's the Vancouver 74 show. At number 5, I have the Portland 73 show. This one is the second shortest, 3 hours 9 minutes, but it's the only show from the box that has Dark Star, which is my favorite Dead song, so it gets points for that. The full set list is Promised Land, Loser, Mexicali Blues, They Love Each Other, which is another new one that they added in 73 that's one of my favorites and gives the 73 set lists a boost in my eyes. It's technically a Garcia solo song because it was on one of his solo albums, but the Dead introduced it to the catalog in 73 and would play it quite frequently, for a while at least. Looks Like Rain, Box of Rain, which they were playing a fair bit in 73, and was the first time that it was sort of a set list regular, even though it came out in 1970 on American Beauty. Unfortunately, Phil couldn't really sing it as well as he did on the studio version by 73, but a couple of these versions are pretty good, including this one. Big Railroad Blues, Jackstraw, Sugary, The Race Is On, Row Jimmy, Beat It On Down the Line, China Cat Sunflower, I Know You Rider, Around and Around, Mississippi Half Step, Uptown Toodaloo, You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man, El Paso, Stella Blue, Greatest Story Ever Told, Bertha, Big River, Dark Star transitioning into Eyes of the World, which is neat, China Doll, Sugar Magnolia, and One More Saturday Night. They Love Each Other and Box of Rain are both really nice versions at this show. The China Rider is unique because it doesn't have the Feelin' Groovy jam during the transition that they were playing a lot in 73 and 74. The Simon and Garfunkel song, 59th Street Bridge song, Feeling Groovy. That is, they would often jam off of the theme of that, sometimes in Dark Star, sometimes in the transition between China Cat Sunflower and I Know You Rider, and sometimes in other places as well. So this one's unique for the transition not having that at this period, but is a good version nonetheless. And then the highlight for me, at least, is the Dark Star transitioning into Eyes of the World. It's a 20, just under 28-minute version of Dark Star that's very good. I mean, post verse, it's sort of a long, winding road into the Eyes of the World, but the pre-verse jam is just great, pure Dark Star thematic jamming, and makes this show a nice piece of the box set. At number 4, I have the Seattle 73 show. This one is the second longest at 3 hours 32 minutes. Set list wise, it is Casey Jones, Greatest Story Ever Told, Brown Eyed Women, Jackstraw, Box of Rain, Deal, Mexicali Blues, You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man, Row Jimmy, The Race Is On, China Cat Sunflower, I Know You Rider, Beat It On Down the Line, Loser, Playing in the Band, Bertha, Promised Land, They Love Each Other, El Paso, Black Peter, Big River, Here Comes Sunshine, Me and My Uncle, He's Gone, Truckin', the other one with me and Bobby McGee sandwiched in between, Sugar Magnolia and Johnny Be Good. This one, the first set has a pretty relaxed feel to it, kind of like the second Paris 72 show, but good playing nonetheless. Very nice Box of Rain, good Row Jimmy, and then the second set has a rare instance of They Love Each Other being in the second set, and is a very good early version of it. I like these 73 versions of They Love Each Other the best, by the way. They after the hiatus, they slowed it down and made it kind of a plodding reggae number, but these bouncy 73 versions are where it's at for They Love Each Other, in my opinion. Then we get the Black Peter is a very nice version, and is always a treat when they play that. And the He's Gone, Truckin', other one, Bobby McGee, suite is very nice at this show too. At number 4, I have the Seattle 74 show. This one is kind of neat because they open with Me and My Uncle, which is interesting. They played it often as the second or third song in the set, but I haven't found too many shows where they open with it, so it's kind of neat from that perspective. So the set list is Me and My Uncle, Brown Eyed Women, Beat It On Down the Line, Deal, Mexicali Blues, It Must Have Been the Roses, The Race Is On, Scarlet Begonias, El Paso, Row Jimmy, Money Money, Ship of Fools, Weather Report Suite, China Doll, Playing in the Band, U.S. Blues, Big River, Stella Blue, Around and Around, Eyes of the World, Wharf Rat, Sugar Magnolia, Johnny Be Good. So as far as the highlights out of that, it's a very nice early version of Scarlet Begonias. One of my favorite of the early versions. It's amazing how much they pack into a less than 6-minute take of it. Then it's got a nice Row Jimmy with some interesting playing from Billy, kind of similar to the way he plays it at the UCLA show in November of 73 that I mentioned a little earlier. It has a good Ship of Fools. The Weather Report suite is very nice. it's a song I had never really gotten into before, but now I really like it. I'm not a huge fan of the Let It Grow second half of it, but I like it at this show actually. I listened to this show on a long walk through the woods last week, and listening to Weather Report Suite while you're in nature made it make a lot more sense, and it was really cool. And the the wharf rat later in the show is very nice. I had always thought that nothing could top the Europe 72 versions of Wharf Rat, but now I think the 74 ones might be the best rats. I had assumed that the 72 ones were the best because I didn't like or don't like the 77 ones that much because they feel a little bit funny tempo wise with the two drummers. They don't quite have that lilt where it sounds like water swishing against a dock late at night. But yeah, 74 I am discovering is a very good year for Wharf Rat. The real highlight of this show, though, is the playing in the band, which is the longest version of it that they ever played at over 46 minutes. It's very complex. It has its very intense moments and then softer ones, and it really feels like quite a journey, especially if you listen to it on a nice long walk through a pretty place in nature, as I did. The opening verses are very energetic, and I read, I think on headyversion.com, someone described it as it sounds like they're almost racing through the verses because they can't wait to get to the midsection. Not racing in a bad way, just you can feel their excitement to, get the verses over with and get into the heart of the matter. It has plenty of intense steal your face moments, and I've twice, when listening to this on a long walk through the woods, had a completely organic psychedelic experience just from listening to it and zoning out, looking at the beauty around me. And then they very slowly sort of rock their way back to the main theme, and then when they finally explode back into it for the ending with the last chorus and all that, it's quite an ecstatic feeling, and you can hear the crowd go nuts and really appreciate it. So yeah, this show is definitely a keeper, if only for that all-time great version of playing in the band. At number 2, I have the Portland 74 show. This one is the third longest at 3 hours 23 minutes. Did I mention the length for the Seattle one? It's the fourth longest, 3 hours 16 minutes. Anyway, so this Portland one is the third longest, and the one that I mentioned has the coolest cover art. So while the previous 4 shows are all very good ones, this one and the one that I have number 1 are all-time great shows. This Portland 74 show is really spectacular. At the time of this recording, several of the songs from it are currently ranked number 1 on headyversion.com. Those being, if I can remember correctly, I think both the Wharf Rat and Truckin' are currently ranked number 1, and several others are very high. It's I almost didn't want it to be true what I kept reading about how good 74 was, because I felt like I was cheating on 72. And when I started this show, it starts with Mississippi Half Step, Uptown Toodaloo, which is not one of my favorite songs of theirs at all. I don't mind it sometimes, but I wouldn't usually go out of my way to listen to it on its own if it wasn't part of a show that I was listening to in its entirety. But even it, I loved the version of it at this show that kicks it off. So as soon as I started it and was digging Mississippi half step, I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna love it. And sure enough, the entire show is spectacular, just energetic. I almost want to say clairvoyant playing, just the chemistry, the technical proficiency, everything about it. Anyway, the set list: Mississippi Half Step, Mexicali Blues, Big Railroad Blues, Black Throated Wind, Scarlet Begonias, Beat It On Down the Line, Tennessee Jed, Me and Bobby McGee, Sugary, Jackstraw, Must Have Been the Roses, El Paso, Loose Lucy, Money Money, China Cat Sunflower, I Know You Rider, Promised Land, Bertha, Greatest Story Ever Told, Ship of Fools, Weather Report Suite, Wharf Rat, Big River, Peggy-O, Truckin', it's just titled Jam. It has hints of the Nobody's Fault But Mine stuff, and then Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, One More Saturday Night, US Blues. Every single song at this show could be considered a highlight, but a few that stood out to me: the Mississippi Half Step, as I mentioned, the Scarlet Begonias is a very nice bouncy early version, very good Tennessee Jed, the Sugary was quite nice. The vocals drop out for almost all of El Paso, but the instruments sound good. Very, very good China Cat Sunflower, I Know You Rider, just a brilliant transition with clear-headed and smooth-fingered playing from Jerry, and all of them just really tearing it up. Pure lysergic bliss, as any good China Cat should be. A very good Bertha, one that can rival the Europe 72 versions in my estimation. One of the best Ship of Fools I've heard. The Weather Report Suite is very good, and was the first version that I had heard. One of, if not the best all-time, Wharf Rat. A very nice, more somber, kind of slow, aching take on Peggy-O, and it's unfortunate that they played it so few times in 74. I think this might have been the only time it became more of a regular in the set list post hiatus, and some of the 77 versions are really great, but I wish they would have tried it more often in 74, because I really like this slower, more melancholy take on it for an already kind of melancholy song. And then one of, if not the best all-time versions of Truckin', with a awesome jam into Not Fade Away, and then from there into Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, into One More Saturday Night, and then a great US Blues encore. I listened to this one in the backyard sitting by the pool on the 4th of July, and it was a spectacular way to spend the 4th. I got fireworks hours before everybody else. So I would definitely say that this is the best 74 show I have yet heard, but I am the first to admit that I'm still fairly new to 74, so I am open to being rather proven wrong somewhere down the road. And that brings us to number 1 for the shows in this box set, the Vancouver 73 show. This one has been a legendary show for a long time before the release of this box set. It's the longest in the box set, 4 hours and 5 minutes. One of the 4 hour 73 shows I mentioned earlier, and is like the Portland 74 show, just superb, energetic, and tight playing throughout, with creative ideas seemingly like flowing in an endless stream between the I guess it would be 6 of them if you count Donna. The set list is Bertha, which is my favorite opener of theirs, Beat It On Down the Line, Deal, Mexicali Blues, Box of Rain, Birdsong, The Race Is On, Sugary, Looks Like Rain, Row Jimmy, Jackstraw, China Cat Sunflower, I Know You Rider, Big River, Tennessee Jed, Playing in the Band, Here Comes Sunshine, Promised Land, Brown Eyed Women, El Paso, Black Peter, Greatest Story Ever Told, Big Railroad Blues, He's Gone, Truckin', The Other One, Wharf Rat, Sugar Magnolia, Casey Jones, Johnny Be Good. As far as songs that stand out as highlights even above the others this show, Very Pretty Box of Rain, one of the best versions of it. It seems fitting that shows in the Pacific Northwest would have it played well. Probably my favorite all-time version of Birdsong. Very mellow, psychedelic, just really gorgeous take on a very pretty song. And then a very good Sugary, one of the best versions of Row Jimmy. Again, fitting that the aquatic songs would be played well in the northern rainforest. One of the best, China Cat Sunflower, I Know You Riders. This one has the Feelin' Groovy jam during the transition, and it's a phenomenal transition at that. Just it sounds like a waterfall, just notes endlessly cascading in. It sounds like the perfect lethargic Saturday afternoon in the summertime with the light splintering through the raindrops. One of the best versions of Here Comes Sunshine. Black Peter's always a treat to hear, and the jam sweet towards the end with He's Gone, Truckin', The Other One, Wharf Rat, Sugar Magnolia is very good as well. So there you have it. I kind of think of these 6 shows now in pairs, with the Vancouver 73 and Portland 74 being the upper echelon. I wouldn't really dispute you putting those 2 in whichever order, but I think they're without question the top 2 shows in the box. And then I would have the 2 Seattle shows as the kind of mid-tier that I could see putting them in either order as well. And then Portland 73 and Vancouver 74 being the lower tier of the box, which is in no way to say they're bad shows. It's just this was a phenomenal period for them. And while I have you here, I think I'll quickly offer my thoughts on the other shows from those 2 years that I listened to in the past couple weeks as well, which took place kind of near the shows that are in this box. So for 73, that's the 2 shows at RFK Stadium in DC on June 9th and 10th, so a couple weeks before they got up to the Pacific Northwest. Now, the first night is 3 hours 22 minutes. Actually, I shouldn't say night. I think these shows were in the daytime because they were a Saturday Sunday deal, I believe. Let me scroll back to, thank God for iPhones, hey, scroll back to 1973 real quick in the calendar. Yes, it was a Saturday, Sunday, so I'm pretty sure I read they were in the daytime, and the photos seem to confirm that. So anyway, the set list on the first night is Promised Land, Deal, Looks Like Rain, They Love Each Other, Jackstraw, Loose Lucy, Mexicali Blues, Row Jimmy, El Paso, Box of Rain, Sugary, Beat It On Down the Line, Tennessee Jed, Greatest Story Ever Told, China Cat Sunflower, I Know You Rider, He's Gone, Truckin', Playing in the Band, Loser, Me and My Uncle, Mississippi, can't say that today, Mississippi, Half Step, Uptown, Toodaloo. What kind of title is that, honestly, man? Big River, Eyes of the World, China Doll, Sugar Magnolia. So the first night there is quite good. It has a very nice version of They Love Each Other. Pretty good Box of Rain as well. The playing in the band is a very nice version, and a pretty good Eyes of the World too. I would probably rank this first night at RFK in the context of the box set. Maybe between the two Seattle shows, maybe ahead of the two Seattle shows, but behind the Vancouver 73 and Portland 74 shows. But the second day at RFK is the longest show of their career, actually, 4 hours, 35 minutes. It was a 3-set show, actually. They open with Morning Dew, which is always a good sign that they're feeling it right from the start and you're in for a good night. Beat It On Down the Line, Ramble on Rose, Jackstraw, Wave That Flag, which would become US Blues, Looks Like Rain, Box of Rain, They Love Each Other, The Race Is On, Row Jimmy, El Paso, Birdsong, Playing in the Band, Eyes of the World, Stella Blue, Big River, Here Comes Sunshine, Around and Around, Dark Star, He's Gone, Wharf Rat, Truckin', Sugar Magnolia, and then coming back out for the third set, joined by Dickie Betts and Butch Trucks from the Allman Brothers. They play It Takes a Lot to Laugh, It Takes a Train to Cry by Bob Dylan, which is one of my favorites of his, and really neat to hear them covering. They cover it really well too. I'm surprised they didn't play it more often. That's Alright Mama by Elvis, Promised Land, Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, a little drum solo back into Not Fade Away, and then Johnny Be Good. So this show is one of my very favorites of their career. I listened to it for the first time about a month ago, but just loved it. I mean, one of the best set lists you'll ever find. Obviously, it was their longest show. Right from the start, terrific Morning Dew that sets the stage for what's to come. They play basically all of the longer sort of jam vehicles that they had in the set at the time. A very nice sort of country inflected version of Box of Rain, one of my favorite versions of it. A very nice They Love Each Other, which might actually be my favorite version, if not for Jerry skipping a few of the verses, but it has an extended solo on his part compared to other 73 versions, and has a very nice pulse to it. It has the Row Jimmy is very nice. The Birdsong is good. and all of the shorter songs are played really well too. I mean, it's a very good Jack Straw. Um, the the playing in the band is very good. The Eyes of the World is spectacular. Uh, really, really neat soloing from Jerry, and the interplay between them all is good as well. A good Here Comes Sunshine, a really, really good Dark Star, and always a treat to have it in the set. And the 73 ones have a really cool, jazzy, almost like liquid sound to them. And it transitions into He's Gone, which is another one that's not usually one of my favorites, but I really loved this version when I was listening to this show. So points for that. And then the Warfrat, Truck and Sugar Magnolia are all good, but then as if all of that wasn't enough, what really sets the show apart is that third set featuring the Allman Brothers. I mean, those two covers that kick it off, the It Takes a Lot to Laugh, Takes a Train to Cry, and That's All Right Mama alone, which take up about 20 minutes between the two of them, would be enough to make this show an all-timer. But I mean, they still have more in the tank with the Promised Land and Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road, Feeling Bad, Sandwich. So that's the third set with a few of the Allman Brothers. Gives this show a boost that puts it ahead of a lot of shows in their live history. I would say this is probably a 99th percentile show, and is my favorite of 73. So I would rank it ahead of the Vancouver 73 show and say it's a bit better than any of the shows in the box set, but which is not an indictment of them, but just how unbelievably good and unique and special this one is for the set list rarities and the guest appearances, in addition to how well played all of the songs are. And then for the 74 shows that I listened to recently, in addition to the box set, the Dave's Picks 34 release that I mentioned is the June 23rd 74 show in Miami. So about a month after the Pacific Northwest shows. But the bonus disc has parts of the night before, the 22nd, also in Miami as well. And it's kind of neat how a lot of times, at least to my ears, shows seem to take on a bit of the character of the city that they're performed in. And I'm not sure if that's due to the band sort of picking up on the vibe of the city and the geography, both human and physical, of the area, sort of influencing their mood and mindset or whatever going into the show. But it's always neat to hear how, like, for instance, you listen to that Bird song from the Vancouver 73 show and think, oh yeah, this is exactly how I would expect a Pacific Northwest version of this to sound. And while all of those Pacific Northwest shows sound like they're in the Pacific Northwest, these two Miami shows really sound like how you would expect the Dead to sound in Miami in the 70s. The playing in the band that's on the bonus disc from the first night is one of my favorite versions of the song now. It's just under 29 minutes and is a really, really neat take on it. It almost sounds underwater. I don't know if it's just because it was in Miami, but when I was listening to it, I couldn't help but picture myself sort of journeying to the lost city of Atlantis, where a lot of versions of it and their other trippy jam vehicles sort of feel like you're being launched into outer space and then floating around exploring up there. This one felt like you're going down deeper and deeper into the ocean, and eventually you reach Atlantis, and then the slow return to the main theme sounded like you're slowly coming back to the surface, but being careful not to go faster than your bubbles. And then the band members kind of bob to the surface one by one and wrap up the song. So a very neat version of that is on the bonus disc from the first night, and then also a really good China Rider and a real good Eyes of the World and Wharf Rat and Sugar Magnolia as well. So the bonus disc is a nice addition, and I listened to the parts of this show on the 22nd that aren't on the bonus disc as well on archive.org, and it sounds like it was quite a good show. I would probably put it between the two Seattle shows as far as where I would have it in my ranking of the shows in the box set, slightly ahead of the Seattle 73 show and slightly below the Seattle 74 show. But then the June 23rd Miami show, which is the actual Dave's Picks 34 release, is a really cool and unique show. Dave Lemieux, the Dead's archivist, who these releases are named after, in his little preamble to the release, said that part of his criteria for picking shows for it is not only that they're one of the best shows of their era and sound like a show from that era, but they also have unique things in as far as set list or some unique jam that make them stand out from their era as well. And he said that this show is a prime example of that, which I now know why, having listened to it. It opens with a very nice Ramble on Rose, which was kind of funny to see as the opener to me. And then a very good Black Throated Wind, which is another one of those ones that I'm not always super keen on. So I know that if I enjoy it, that it's a very good version of it. And then a very good Mississippi half step, Beat It On Down the Line, Row Jimmy, Jackstraw, Let It Rock, the Chuck Berry song. And this is the only time they ever played it, and they play it really well. It's another one that it's a shame they didn't do more often. Cumberland Blues, El Paso, To Lay Me Down, Weather Report Suite, China Doll, Sea Stones, which was a sort of electronic noise experimentation piece that Phil would do with this fellow named Ned Legren, if I said that right, I hope, during the intermission between the first and second set. Kind of similar to what Jimmy Page would do with his noise solos on the 77 tour. And then the second set opens with a jam based around the Ship of Fools theme for about 4 minutes before they transition into Ship of Fools. Big River, Black Peter, Around and Around, Dark Star, Jam. So they play it instrumental for 17 minutes, into Spanish Jam for 4.5 minutes, into US Blues, which with a really cool several minute long transition. Then Uncle John's Band, One More Saturday Night, and Casey Jones. So the show has a lot of highlights and a lot of unique moments. The Let It Rock, as I mentioned, being the only time that they ever played it. They have a really cool kind of intro of it where they ease their way into the groove of it, and like I say, they play it so well. It's kind of astonishing that it's the only time they did it. And then a good Cumberland blues, which is always a nice treat to hear them play. A very nice reading of To Lay Me Down, which was a song I hadn't heard before until I listened to this show. But I discovered it's a Jerry Garcia solo number, technically, as far as how it appeared on a studio release, but thought of to be one of, if not the best, versions of it. And then a very good the Weather Report suite is very good. I even enjoyed the Sea Stones electronic noise bit in the intermission, but then the second set at this one is what really sets it apart. The Ship of Fools jam into what's probably the all-time best version of Ship of Fools. Fitting that it was in Miami, a very coastal city. Just such a pretty version of the song, and the haunting jam around the theme for 4 minutes before they launch into the song proper is the icing on the cake for it being the all-time best version. Then a very nice Black Peter, which is always nice to have, and the as I mentioned before, the Dark Star instrumental, which I think maybe was not intended to be instrumental. Towards the end of it, you can hear it sounds like they are maybe gonna bring it around to the first verse and then steer into the Spanish Jam instead, which is one of their best readings of Spanish Jam that they ever did, and again, fitting for being in Miami. And then the transition from Spanish Jam into US Blues was one of the most surprising and thrilling dead moments I've yet heard, and instantly one of my favorites. Just has to be heard to be believed. So I think Dave's Picks 34 is sold out already, but you can find it online if you look for it, and you won't be disappointed. And then the Uncle John's Band is very nice as well, and an energetic One More Saturday Night and Casey Jones at the end there. Placing this one in the context of the other shows in the box set, I would have it very close to the Portland 74 show. It's a bit shorter, only 3 hours on the nose, but the uniqueness gives this one quite a boost, to the point that I'm tempted to call it a tie between those two. Very spectacular show down in Miami. So that just about wraps up today's episode. I thoroughly enjoyed the box set and would highly recommend it to any deadhead or even casual person. They put a compilation from the 6 nights called Pacific Northwest 73 to 74, Believe It If You Need It, which is a line from Box of Rain, obviously, and that's available on Spotify and all the rest, whereas the complete shows are not. But I don't think it's a very good representation of these 6 shows at all, actually. I listened to it when the stuff came out 2 years ago and didn't actually like it that much, and that's why it took me 2 years to decide to get the box set. So I would highly recommend splurging for the box set. If you go on the Dead's website, you can either get the physical copies or download it in FLAC or Apple lossless, which I went for, or even MP3. And then I would highly recommend listening to for sure the the Miami show on the 23rd for 74, and the second RFK 73 show as well. And I am very much enjoying the start of my journey down the 73 and 74 rabbit's hole. So stay tuned for more observations from those years. And I think with that, we will call it a day. So thank you very much to all of you who are listening so far. I was checking up on the statistics, and to my surprise, I have listeners in many countries beyond Canada and the States, which is always encouraging to know that you're reaching people beyond your personal network. So I hope you're all enjoying it, and I will see you next time. Class dismissed.